It being 6 o'clock on April 19th, I'm going to call this meeting to order. This meeting is occurring over Zoom video phone teleconference for the allowance under the governor's emergency order number 12. That's waived the requirement of having a quorum of the board physically present for a public meeting. Roll call, Andy Fitch,
Present.
Ann Barney,
Present.
Bob Letourneau, you're muted. And Alan Silly.
Present.
Bob, you're still muted.
I'm here.
Yes, you are. Thank you. I am going to suggest that we skip the approval of minutes because we have guests that are basically on another timetable than we are. Catherine?
Hi.
What do you have to discuss with us?
Well, let's see. Do we want to discuss the electric department rates?
No, if we're going to start with that, I don't think that's going to be a longer conversation.
Okay.
Was the internal controls, Catherine?
It's the internal controls.
Yes, so, as you are all aware, from our 2019 audit, we have a number of governance letter issues that we need to address for this year. One of which, is our purchasing policy, which we have a purchase order and requisition policy. We have a debit card policy, we have a credit card policy. And as part of that, we need to update our policies. What I would recommend would be to update the policy in accordance with our internal controls. So for example, our current internal control procedure is department heads have authority to spend up to $1,500 within their departmental budgets. Anything over $1,500 has to go to the town manager for approval. As far as quotes go, I don't think we have any formal policy or procedure on that. It depends on the vendors that are available. When it comes to manufacturing of goods, if it's straight from the source or if it's from somebody who resales the goods to us. And then we have a competitive bid requirement in our policies of $10,000. So my recommendation to the board would be that we put that into a purchasing policy and adopt that. But I wanted to discuss that with you all to see what your thoughts were. And if you had any requests that you would like included in the policy before I draft one up for your review and approval. So does anybody have any input on that? Do we think $1,500 is an okay limit for department heads? Do we want to set a threshold for when you would like to see a couple of quotes? And are we comfortable with the $10,000 bid threshold?
What has brought this about?
Our audit. In the fact that our internal controls do not align with our policies.
So in order to get our internal controls aligned with our policies, you are suggesting changes in those areas. Is that correct?
Correct.
I would suggest that you draft up a draft on it and submit it to the board for approval.
Absolutely. That's my goal, Bob. What I'm trying to ascertain from the board, since it's a board policy, is what the board's pleasure is, so I don't have to go through several revisions and I can hit the
Okay,
ground running.
to me, $1,500 is acceptable for a department head spending with, as it's currently stated.
Okay.
You said that we have a $10,000 limit before it needs to go out to bid
Yeah, that's, we require competitive bids for
at
anything.
10, at 10 grand.
Yep.
So there's the $8,500 gap between those two that is in flux. Is that correct?
Correct. I would recommend something probably close to the middle, maybe 5,000 to obtain 3 quotes. Given our proximity and geographical location in New Hampshire, sometimes in discussing with our department heads at our last department head meeting, sometimes there's only one vendor available to us for some of the things that cost maybe 2,000 or 3,000. So it was kind of the consensus that 5,000 seemed reasonable and that we just include the caveat of when available to obtain 2 to 3 quotes. So if that's acceptable by the board, I can include that in the policy.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you think that the $5,000 range is appropriate?
I do.
Agreed.
It might leave some discussion. I thought things like that would be, you have a $1,500 limit, something's going over that before it gets to the threshold where it has to be bid. You would go through the town manager.
Yes, you go through the town manager. It has, I don't believe that she's recommending us removing the 1,500 and the 1,501 to 99.99 level. It just is a matter of, it still needs to go to the town manager after $1,500.
Correct.
Okay,
So it's just clarifying our levels of threshold of approval. So department heads have 0 to $1,499. Anything 1,499 or 1,500 and up requires a town manager approval. For anything 5,000 or over, management would like and governance would like to see a couple quotes to make sure we're staying competitive and getting the best price and fit for the town. And then $10,000, I'm not recommending any changes for the formal current bid procedure.
The pleasure of the board is to have her do that? Is to have her put that in a formal?
I'm not sure that the 5,000 to get quotes works for all the departments. I mean, Park and Rec, that's fine, but with Craig or the police department or something, when they're trying to get different equipment, I mean, do we need to have them get that for $5,000?
I think you have to have it in your policy. I think it's standard that if you go around to municipalities, it's a standard practice to have different thresholds. Like we discussed in the department head meeting, Ann, and like I just said, it's when it's available, when you can obtain a couple different quotes at that threshold. And, I think if you'd have 2 or 3 quotes, police department, I mean, it's very rare that they have such large purchases. And when he does go to make a purchase like that, typically he does have a couple quotes. I know Craig has his hand raised, so maybe he wants to add.
Greg?
Yeah, I would say that, if I'm gonna go out and say I'm gonna purchase a 0-turn lawnmower for $5,000, I think that's great. Go get a few quotes. But when it comes difficult, is like when I'm buying, I don't know, gravel, sand, catch basins, things that we need. It's not like I don't know, it's regular maintenance items. That's when it becomes a little harder for me because things are expensive on the public works side.
Yeah, they are.
But I can see a piece of equipment. That's perfect. Can can something be added to the policy that, I don't know, some sort of a term that's non-routine?
Yep.
Um,
Craig, for most of those, do you have a contract with them to do those types of services?
no, we wouldn't, like when I get gravel, I have to buy a lot of gravel. You've seen the invoices come in.
Yeah.
It's like, it could be $8,000 of salt. It could be, things of that sort, but, I don't know. I think everyday stuff, even Rusty, if he went out, well, I guess he would get a quote too.
So I would
it's
say
just-
non-routine, non-recurring. And my question to
Right,
you
that's perfect.
would, when you first went out, you probably got a bid or a quote for those services, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes like there are a few gravel pits around. But the closest one for us is down at Ambrose down in New Hampton.
Yep.
So it's just the trucking availability, where some other pit may be close, maybe cheaper. It's just a lot longer to travel.
Right.
So
I-
that may not work. That's all. That's all I was getting at.
No, I
It still needs town manager approval. So is that,
That-
isn't,
Yeah, Eli, that was right. Whenever I bought something that was over my limit, I always just went to Charlie and he signed off on it. I'm sure
Yeah.
that would be the case for the next town manager too. And I never did anything without, getting approval, but I think as long as we can still do that, that's perfect.
it would just, it sometimes I can understand why we would like to have a second bid even at $5,000.
Yep, just to ensure that we're competitive. The
Yeah.
businesses are always changing. And yeah, I mean, thank you, Craig, for bringing that up, because we definitely want to put any exceptions to the rule in the policy, so it's just very clear and transparent. And I think if you end up going to the vendor and, there was 2 vendors that were available for over that threshold, as long as you do your due diligence the first time, I think we've covered ourselves in accordance with this potential policy that we're looking to put into place. And so with that policy, I would also recommend eliminating the purchase order policy and the requisition policy. Our current purchase order policy says that we're actually supposed to have purchase orders for anything over 1,500. I don't recommend that. It's a lot of additional paperwork. I think if you can have the proper signatures that you need on an invoice, it's just as good as a purchase order. And I think if we're getting the quotes for any large purchases and bids for the really large purchases, I think we have enough of a formal approval process. So as long as the board's okay with that. See a couple nods.
Board?
That sounds fine to me.
So you're going to give us, you're going to write the policy and let us review it, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And then you can rescind any old policies that you don't wish to be in effect for any longer.
You will have them available for us?
Yes, yep. I have all the old policies, so I can give everybody copies of the old policies and with the recommended new policies.
Okay,
And then piggybacking on to that, just because debit credit card purchases go hand in hand. Right now, we have our credit card through, it's through Meredith Village Savings Bank, which is a third party. Meredith Village Savings Bank is one of our banking institutions. We also use Franklin Savings Bank. Neither one of them have a local good credit card option that is beneficial to a municipality. So what that means is we're getting the same deal as any consumer on the street. Our interest rates are high, the fee structure is high. We get the invoices rather late in the month and they're due pretty quickly. So it's always jumping through hoops to make sure we have all the receipts. I mean, I shouldn't say that. The department heads are really good about turning in the receipts, but it's reconciling the receipts, making sure we have everything and cutting the check. And with the snail mail lag, we're still experiencing about a week delay in receiving documents that are mailed and sending documents through the mail. So I've been doing some research for some better options out there, and I'm going to recommend that the board eliminate the use of debit cards. Debit cards, as I've already said in the past, they circumvent the entire purchasing policy. They directly debit our bank account, which is actually a violation of state statute. Purchases are only allowed to be made when they're authorized by the town manager or board of selectmen. They shouldn't be made prior to that. So in that, I recommend that we move towards a P card system. So P cards, they're purchase cards. We have there's a couple different vendors that I've received information. One is Wex Bank. They've been a little bit slow or non-responsive when I've asked for information. But then there's also another one. It's called the PFM program, which is actually through New Hampshire PDIP. So these cards, they would give us the flexibility to set the thresholds for department heads. I would be able to log in, say, Craig, you have a huge purchase coming up and it has to be an electronic payment. I could, with proper approval in advance, I could go and adjust your threshold so you can make that purchase. There's no interest at all. There's no fees associated with these cards, and you actually earn cash back on purchases. So one of the programs has 1% cash back on purchases, and another has, if you spend over 100,000 using these cards, you get, once you hit that, you get some cash back on your purchases. So to me, it's really a no-brainer. I mean, there's no fees associated. What happens? They will only authorize the transactions that have been approved. And what would happen after we made the purchases, Wax Bank or the PFM program through New Hampshire PDIP would automatically debit the town's account after everything had gone through a manifest and received the proper approvals on the check register. It's very secure. I know one of our department heads in particular has had fraud on their account twice in a 6-month period. So it's just the current tools that we're using they're not great tools for us. And so this is what I'm recommending to the board. So I wanted to obtain your responses on that.
I have no issue with it. I am obviously going to ask you to put it in writing so that we can have time to reflect on it.
Okay.
You can't expect to bring these kind of issues before the board without us having any chance to review it before it comes up. We're in the dark as far as that goes, and it's a one-sided conversation.
I did send out those documents from Catherine on the PFM program to all of you in
Yeah, when
advance.
did that happen? I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
Within the past week. And
It's, ladies and gentlemen, we don't need to discuss when they were sent out. Okay, if they were missed, they were missed. I would like to see us, we have other dealings that we need to get to rather than this particular item. I would like to see the rationale behind, you have given us a rationale. I would like to see it in writing, Catherine.
I can do that.
Thank you.
And both of the vendors have asked to do a presentation to the board. So that's why I wanted to, this is all just discussionary to move forward with this process. And if the board is interested, then we can set the next step up. But I wasn't gonna set that up without obtaining your thoughts on it first.
Okay.
I would
Moving,
think if somebody would come in and present it to us, then we can ask any questions of them while they're here.
yes,
So I think that probably would be a good next step.
Would you like that in time for the next meeting, or would you like some more time to think about it?
I would just as soon have it in time for the next meeting.
Right, because we have things we want to ask, we will ask it of them so that there's no middleman and we get the direct answer.
Okay. I am going to suggest that we move on to Mr. Bullock.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to participate in your meeting this evening. I had been in communication with Fran on some guidance that Primex provides to all of our members. It's mostly risk management guidance relating to some issues that may come up when you're working on your 4th of July celebration. I'm using that term. I know it may have a different name, but your 4th of July celebration that the Board of Selectmen in the town is sponsoring, and relating to issues such as fireworks, parades, community use of facilities, volunteers, sort of different areas, liquor liability if there was to be alcohol served at the event. I don't know if that's relevant or not. Looks like it's not by Bob shaking his head. And certainly happy to answer any questions you may have. Everything that I said is guidance, nothing more, nothing less. For this event, you're covered under the Primex coverage document. The board is covered, the town is covered, your employees when acting within the course and scope of their duties, and your volunteers when acting in the course and scope of their volunteer duties are considered covered parties, so they're covered. Some entities that wouldn't be covered would be private vendors if 501c3 nonprofits were participating. Individual participants aren't directly covered under Primex coverage. Because we operate as a public risk pool, we can only cover municipalities or those agents that I described of municipalities. So that's sort of the general coverage overview, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have or any other topics of conversation you would like.
David, are not the participants, are the people that are watching the fireworks covered?
So they would be covered from a liability perspective if they indicated that the town was negligent, because we provide liability and property coverage for the town. So if they were to bring a claim forward and say that the town was negligent and someone sustained an injury due to the fireworks, we would look at that as a liability claim. And if there was liability for the town and you didn't have a good contract in place with the vendor, then there may be some liability exposure there for the town. In most cases, you'll have a contract with the vendor that'll say that they'll assume the liability, that they'll hold the town harmless, and they'll name you as an additional insured under their own general liability policy, because they're working in a sort of an ultra hazardous occupation. That risk is generally transferred to them. You would just want to make sure that you have a good contract in place with them, and we provide some guidance on that in form of a risk management bulletin. But great question.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question for Mr. Bullock?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Oh. Fran,
Thanks, David. I provided to all of you the documents that David
Yes.
provided to me that lists these issues out. I think the key that I took away is, number one, we need to ensure that we have good contracts in place with all the vendors, especially fireworks, and that they should be reviewed by legal to make sure the indemnification language is there. The other thing that we need to have is a volunteer roster, and there is there are not only volunteer appointment forms, but there are volunteer agreements, and I think I sent out a couple of those that we've received. So all of our volunteers should, be documented, and that's something that we haven't necessarily done well. I know right now there's a pending issue came up at the school board, and I know we have a couple of school board members on here, about a memorandum of understanding between the town and the school if we have the fireworks up there again. So that needs to be clarified.
And just to highlight what Fran said, that for contracts, Primex is happy to review them for you. It's free of cost. It's part of your membership. We would review them only for indemnification and insurance purposes, and not to replace local counsel's purview, but especially as it relates to the coverage document. It's not required. It doesn't impact your coverage one way or the other. It's just a service we required. And the volunteer, I know that can be a bit of a process getting volunteers registered, but it really does protect the town and the volunteers most importantly. It gives you, so if a claim came forward and someone said that volunteer was negligent, we would be able to say, well, look, nope, absolutely, that there's their form, they were working as they should. Let's make sure that they're fully protected under the coverage document. We wouldn't decline coverage if you didn't have the paperwork filled out. That's not how we operate. We would look at the facts on the ground and make, and speak to the staff member that was reviewing their work or what have you. So it's not like we would say, well, you don't have a piece of paperwork on file, they don't get coverage. That's absolutely not the approach we would take, but it just gives that sense of security for everybody and outlines it.
So David, would you recommend that when there's a new memorandum of understanding between the town and the school, for example, that Primex should review it as well?
We can certainly look at it. One thing, when you do have an agreement with the school district, because you're both Primex members, that's the one case where we can't review it for indemnification and insurance purposes, because any guidance that I gave to the town would be adverse to the school district or vice versa. So we have a inherent a little
We'll
bit
wait for
hand-tied there because of that conflict, but local counsel will serve you well in those.
Okay, you froze there for a minute, David, so I'm not sure if we missed anything.
Oh, sorry. Just because of the conflict of interest where you're both Primex members, we're a little bit hand-tied in terms of what we can provide guidance on. But if one of the members says, well, how does coverage play out related to this MOU, we can certainly happy to have that conversation.
Okay,
And the MOU would be between the town and the school,
right,
not the committee and the school.
correct.
Is that right, David?
That's who you're both the two political, so you're both the legal entity. So yeah, it would be between the town and the school district. Very common. I see them all the time where you're using their facilities. They're probably going to request some indemnifications and protections from the town. Again, review that with your local counsel, but very, very common, and we see those all the time.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for Mr. Bullock? Hearing none. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. If anything comes up, just let me know. I'm happy to be of further service. So pleasure speaking with everybody, and have a good night.
Thank you, David.
Thank
you. Okay. While let's do electric department rates next. Is that acceptable?
Why don't we move on the applications for the 4th of July committee, and we should be able to move that through that pretty quickly. The electric rate thing could go on for a while.
Does the rest of the board have anything to say? Hearing none. Fine. Appointments for the 4th of July committee. We have paperwork for, okay, on this agenda, I have Ginger Grant, Deb Perdue, Charles Bozello, Rebecca Hartley, and Shannon Hartley's. Are there more people that we need to?
I also sent out today, I got applications from John and Sue Harville.
Okay. So does you have your copies in front of you, Fran?
I do.
So how many positions are there total?
What?
So how many positions are there in total?
Over a year ago, we set the committee as a 5-member board.
Okay, we approved 2 at the last meeting.
We approved 2 at the last meeting. And we would be
Actually,
picking,
3.
3.
I believe it was 3. It was Kendall Hughes, and Deb
David
Perdue
Rule.
and David Rule.
I didn't think we, okay, maybe, okay. So we have 2 positions for the board open.
So those who are not on the board can be listed as volunteers, is my,
They can be listed as volunteers.
Excuse me. I believe Deb Perdue was not voted in last time.
No, she was not.
okay. Sorry, I thought we'd gotten around.
I'm just going over the minutes now.
Yeah.
So originally we had said there was 2, and I believe that was David Rule and Kendall Hughes.
Yes.
Approved.
Deb Perdue had not turned in her paperwork at that time.
Exactly. They had assumed at that time that because they were present members of the board and the board hadn't, they didn't think the board had expired, and they thought they were still members. And that was incorrect. You had filled us in that the board was dissolved by the Board of Selectmen, so therefore the board didn't exist anymore, so everybody had to sign up again.
Right.
So here we are with the applications to go forward. So do you want to take them one at a time or do them as a group?
Well, as far as the committee goes, Deb Perdue is I believe a longstanding member. She took the time to show up at our last meeting and voice interest. I would like to take her first.
I'll make a motion that we approve Deborah Perdue as a member of the Fourth of July Committee.
Do I hear a
I'll
second?
second. I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Ann Barney,
Aye.
Bob Laterno,
Aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye.
Okay.
We now have,
Rebecca Hartley is next
well,
on the list anyways.
okay, on your list. I see duplication of names as far as last names. Rebecca Hartley and Shannon Hartley. Are they
They're-
related?
Oh,
Yes. 2 different people.
2 different people, but they're related.
Yes.
Relationship.
I'm married.
Okay. As far as the committee goes, I would prefer to have only 1 member of a family on the committee.
Why?
And that would eliminate the
Not a
Hartley
paid
as well.
position, it's a volunteer position. They're gonna be,
I understand that. My reasoning is that 2 people exert greater control over a committee than 1. It
So
is
that means,
generally not, it is in government. It is generally not viewed as appropriate to have a husband and wife team on the same board.
that's not true. That is not true. I've seen many husband and wife teams, both at the state capital and in other local town boards. So that's not true.
And what about the Harvilles? They're,
That would be the same, it would be the same reasoning.
but
And then
they're,
if,
they're her parents. So you're gonna eliminate 4 people?
if we're limiting the committee to 5, you've got to decide which 5, and we've already got 3. So there's only 2 more that you can put on the committee, is the way I understood the discussion.
We only have 2 more applicants.
We have Ginger Grant, Charlie Bozello, the 2 Hartleys, and the 2 Harvilles.
Okay, well, I would like to be able to vote on the people who were on the committee before because they have experience with the committee, knows what needs to be done. If we could have some direction probably from one of the members here. I think there's a couple here. David Rule maybe, or Kendall.
I see Kendall sitting there.
Well, Kendall and Deb are related as well,
Okay,
but they've been on it forever. So have the Harvilles, so have the Hartleys. I mean,
when the board at the last, unless you want to change the makeup of this committee, I am going by what we had approved when, before this group was just, we said that they no longer were a committee. It is your choice. Yes, Kendall.
Oh, sorry. Everybody that has applied has been on this committee in the past, with the exception of Dan Gross. So I don't really know what else you want me to say about that. I'd be happy with any and all of them.
Well, I think we have a problem is if a 5-member board, we've already have 2 members. We need to put 3 more on. We can't put 4 more on or 5 more on. So we have to have a choice on which ones you want.
So historically, I was the president. David Rule was the vice president. Deb Perdue was the secretary. Ginger Grant represents other organizations like the Boy Scouts. And Charlie is a very avid supporter of 4th of July in general. And Dan Grossman is a new business owner in the community. Just to give you some background on them all.
I have not yet gotten an application from Dan Grossman, Kendall.
Oh, he told me he turned it in this morning.
Okay, he probably turned it in
Okay.
after I left.
Okay, all I know is he told me he turned it in already. So the Harvilles, what they do is they do a lot of publicizing stuff for us. They can be volunteers, that's fine. If you go and make Charlie and Ginger board members, that would be wonderful. And same thing with the Hartleys. They do a lot of legwork stuff for us.
The problem.
Does that help you?
You see right now is there's a 5-member board.
He just
So-
got it down to 5
Right.
members.
So what I'm proposing the 5 members to be is myself, David Rule, Deb Perdue, Ginger Grant, and Charlie. I can't pronounce his last name, I'm sorry.
Bozello.
The Harvilles would be awesome if we could have them.
They
But
can
they do,
be,
I'm pretty sure they would understand they would love to be volunteers.
They can be,
There's some between,
they can be
there's a
volunteers.
misunderstanding between you guys and us on what a committee is and what a volunteer is.
Yeah. They can be, those people could be, can be volunteers. Even people outside the town can be volunteers. But when we had to make up the new rules, we chose a 5-member board.
I think it's 5 voting members. They can all, be a part of your organization, but 5 voting members is the way I understood it.
Also, if I may add, I believe one of those voting members was the Parks and Rec Director, which was appointed by the Board of Selectmen to be on the committee. And she actually is very key to being on the committee.
Well, she would probably be the representative from the board, and that would remain.
Yeah, I just don't know if that's one of the 5 is what I'm asking.
It's not one of the 5 that we discussed.
All right,
And
so I
I'll
think
let
to not move this forward, I think that we would approve the board for 5 people, and the rest of the people who have made applications can be volunteers to the committee. And you can do the same amount of work as a volunteer as you can as a board member. The only thing you won't be able to do is vote.
Yeah. So Ginger Grant and Charles Bozello and Deb Perdue. Is that what we're voting on?
Yes.
You already voted on Deb Perdue.
Okay. I will
I'll make a motion that we put Ginger Grant and Charles Bozello on the 4th of July committee.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Ann Barney,
Aye.
Bob Letourneau,
Aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye. Okay, guidelines for 4th of July Town Committee. Okay,
Eli, I sent to you a volunteer service statement and agreement that we got from Primex.
yep,
I started modifying it, and in fact, both of the Harvilles had completed one
Yeah.
for themselves. And I, that probably all volunteers should fill these out.
okay. So everybody has to have a volunteer form on record at the town office. All vendor contracts shall be approved by the town manager and or the Board of Selectmen. All vendor contracts shall follow Primex's recommendations. All vendors shall have insurance that indemnifies the town of Ashland according to Primex guidelines. All vendor licenses shall be current. Food vendors must have current health safety documents. The 4th of July committee may charge extra fees for vendor participation. The vendor application fee still goes to the town, which is $50. The committee shall follow the town's social media policy. The committee shall follow the town's posting of meetings policy. Fireworks companies shall comply with all Primex guidelines. And the one that we haven't figured out quite yet how to do is the 4th of July funds shall be held in the town in a non-lapsing fund. The town finance officer is going to need research methods under Gadsby to accomplish this goal.
Eli, will you send those guidelines to me, please?
I will.
Thank you.
Does anybody have, before I do this, does anybody have anything they would like to add or delete?
I have a question about the vendor's fee, the $50
Yeah.
vendor's fee. That has never gone to the town. It has always gone to the 4th of July committee to stay in their accounts for the following year.
I understand that. However, it is a vendor fee that we have to sign off on.
We waive fees for
Yeah.
other things. Like we just did a plant sale.
If the rest of the board does not want to collect the vendor's fee for this, all you have to do is say, we do not want to collect for the vendor's fee, and I will take it out.
I would like to take that out.
Make a motion.
I make a motion to waive the $50 vendor fee for the 4th of July so they can keep their fees.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Ann Barney,
Aye.
Bob Letourneau,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
Nay.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
and I'm going to say nay. The ayes have it. I will remove that before I send this to Miss Newton. Is there anything else in there that you would like to discuss?
No, I think that Primex has been very good to the town and that they've made some reasonable recommendations, and we should follow those recommendations for liability purposes.
Okay. Does everybody else feel that way?
Yes.
Okay. Kendall, are those livable?
Yes, they're much better than before.
I tried. Okay.
So in the past, we've actually sent them to Primex to get approved, as well as the town manager.
Okay. We would be sending them to Primex and legal. So,
Okay, it just
Okay.
worded differently, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything on this?
So as far as their funding goes, their funding's not kept appropriately now. According to NHMA, their funds are supposed to go to the trustees of the trust fund, and they maintain their funds. Therefore, their funds are non-lapsing in the trust fund as long as they're used in accordance with what they're taking for. The board has to accept them. The funds are supposed to go to the trustees, and the committee would have to approach the trustees to get what they need to pay out for bills.
This is rather strange, and I think it's make it difficult for the committee to operate. We just approved of a private fund to redo the Ashland covered bridge. Why can't it be something like that?
All I can tell you is what I was told by the lawyer at NHMA. He said because the town accepted the money with the covered bridge, that's going into a 501. A 501c. We're not seeing the money. The Heritage Commission is going to have control of that money. The 4th of July committee is a town committee, and they are operating under the Board of Selectmen.
Kendall,
Yes, sir.
are you on the Heritage? Is it,
I'm on the Heritage Commission. I'm also on the Historical Society.
one
I
of
believe-
those is allowed to collect money, isn't it?
Both of them are.
And
past.
and establish a fund?
Yes, we have in the past.
Why don't you take a look at establishing a fund for the 4th of July funds?
They used to be under Heritage until they wanted to come under the town. It would be lot less complicated if they stayed under Heritage.
How would that be, Kendall?
That should be fine. I can bring it to the Heritage Commission. We can have a meeting.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get things done so that you get to use the money and not waste a lot of time.
Yeah.
And by the way, Catherine Davis, our finance person, did a thumbs up on that one.
Okay.
So why don't you look into it?
Okay, we can do that.
That would be a lot smoother, I think. Especially when it comes down to paying like the fireworks guys, that's gonna be a big check.
You know,
They need to start collecting money now. They need to start getting those vendors, because those vendors will sign up somewhere else if they don't get them. You know,
what I'm trying to do is make this work for both entities.
I get it.
Okay?
I will propose to have a meeting on the 27th before the Historical Society meeting
Okay.
next Tuesday.
Okay.
That should give us enough meeting notice.
That's great, Kendall. Okay. So 4th of July is come out. Security locks for the town hall. Who's in charge of that one? Greg?
Well, I provided a quote to you guys, and I think Will got a second quote, and they said, wow, that's a quote, so it's real cheap. You should just go with A&B locks. So it sounds like the other vendor was going to provide a much higher quote for that.
Well, aren't there two issues?
Well, the issue right now is the lock at the town hall has been broken. It doesn't lock well.
It's difficult to, it
Right,
has a mind of its own. Is that correct?
that's correct, right, yep. Yep.
Okay.
It gets
So
used
there's-
so much, I think, even if you repaired it, it would still eventually
Yeah.
fail.
So there's a temporary issue versus another security. Catherine, you have your hand up.
Yeah, if I just may speak to that, today actually, the handle broke entirely. The lock wasn't working today. So we actually had A&B lock and key come right out and fix the lock. So that has actually been fixed as of today, Craig. And he showed me the inside of that handle and that locking mechanism. It's really old and rusted out. With the proposal that he already gave us, he's going to give us a proposal to replace that whole handle on the door, because it's time. It's rusted out and worn out and barely working. It's only a matter of time before that lock breaks again. So And on the interim basis, that has been fixed. So we won't experience some of the issues we have been recently, but it's definitely something that we should still consider moving forward with upgrading the whole security.
Okay,
Excuse me, Eli, I think either Craig or Will should address why we're talking about this whole key fob thing instead of the traditional keys. This has been something that was discussed in the past, and that's why we have a new proposal. But I think either Craig or Will ought to address this issue and why we're talking about it.
Well,
I
you
can
can go
speak
ahead.
to it
You
if you
got
want.
the information.
Yeah, I was just waiting for a break in the talking. So
Look to you.
Charlie and I had talked about this a long time ago for multiple reasons, one of which is security issues. I know that there are keys everywhere for a lot of different buildings. Theoretically, when a key is issued out to one of the public buildings, if that key is lost, the entire lock set should be replaced for security issues. You know, when you start talking about the fire department and the turnover and the personnel that they have, the number of part-timers and per diem folks, if one of those keys gets lost, that whole building should theoretically be rekeyed. We have a lot of keys that are out there. I asked somebody that was the chief prior to me who had keys to the building, and the answer I got was, I give them out to everybody, I have no idea. So I know that keys to our secure facility are out there to a lot of people, and we are having a lot of issues with our lock. So I proposed it to Charlie that we look at some type of a fob or card system for the PD and the town offices. It's kind of the direction I think that we should be going. We can have building by building done at different times. It doesn't have to be something where the entire town is done all at once. I know for the PD, when I get keys made, they're about $5 a piece, $4.50 to $5 a piece. And again, if we lose one, we should be rekeying the whole setup. With these key fob systems, you can grant access to individual cards and have them go to one door, to every door, access at specific times of day. So if we were to have, say, once we can have in-person meetings and the conference room gets utilized again, we can give cards out to people and then give access to that card for 3 hours on a Monday afternoon or whatever it happens to be. That way we have denoted who's got what fob or card, and we can grant access when and where we want to. And it will also keep a very specific log of which key, card, fob, whatever we choose to go with, is used on which door in which building. So we've already had a couple of questions already in the last several months about access to specific buildings. This would give us very, very specific time-stamped information as to who had access to where. The quote that we got from A&B, I was actually pretty surprised at the cost. It is relatively inexpensive. It is an expandable system. So we could start with one building and progress as time goes on. We are getting a quote in the works right now from A&B for each building so that we can have a quote that encompasses the entire town. And we're also getting one from another company to cover 2 quotes to make sure that, one or the other isn't too far off. I think this would be a smart move for setup for the entire town when we have so many keys out to so many different places. I would also recommend that they not have any labels on it, be a blank key card so that nobody knows it goes to wherever it goes to. And if one gets lost, we can simply deactivate that card, issue a new one. They're very cheap. You buy them in bulk. And if that card gets found again down the road, we can reactivate it for the same person or somebody else or something along those lines. But I think it would be a relatively inexpensive move for the level of security it would gain us.
okay. Where do we go from here?
So it looks to me like they're only covering one door. Is that
So-
what I'm seeing?
So what we had talked about in the department head meeting with Fran, when we had this issue with the back door of the town hall, and we're having issues with our key system at the PD, we had talked about an immediate basis, and I don't know how much that has changed based on the fix that was done today. But we had talked about doing for the town hall, the rear entry door as well as the PD door. And then from there, if we wanted to expand it, I don't have the quote in front of me, but I think it's like $170 per door. So we could add another door to that if we wanted to, or we could just keep it the 2 doors. The quote that was given to Fran has the back door to the town hall as well as the PD side on it. And then all their control systems and everything else to make the system move. When it comes to expanding out to different buildings, we could, the module that controls the system is the expensive piece, and then adding a door here or there, I guess that piece is, that equipment's relatively inexpensive. I think it was $170 a door. So the town hall was the back door in the PD side for the immediate fix of the problems that we were having. And then we could look at expanding out down the road.
Yeah, Will, I don't think that had it just had one door. And then it's $170 per door if you want to add other doors. And I think what we all talked about, the department head meeting, was the immediate need was the town office. And then going from there, maybe there's money left at the end of the year, or we budget for it in the next budget. So you'd have to add $170 for 2 more doors if you want to do 2 other doors at the town office, which I think probably is desirable because you have the people who work upstairs using the front door, right? So I would
And the door to come
do
into
that.
the main office.
Yeah, I would just do the town office first, and then that's the immediate need.
The town office and the police department, right?
That's
Right.
right.
You gotta do the police department.
Yes.
And just as a brief reminder, we also have our contingency line item, any unanticipated costs that arise during the year. The budget for that is 25,000. I also think these would be some eligible expenditures for our capital reserve funds if they were approved by the selectmen, if this is not built into the current year budget.
Well, I think that the entire town hall facility should have, if you're gonna do the locks, do them all town hall. Because you get in one door, you get in all doors.
Yeah, I would agree, but if there's an emergency and Will needs to get in the front door, he has to go around. It would be easier for him to go through the front door if he happened to be there. So let's just do them all.
Exactly. It makes more sense to do it that way, And we could expand to other buildings in town as appropriate. I mean,
Yeah, I agree with that.
anyways, the locks are bad. They need to be replaced to start with.
Yes. So what's the total amount, Fran?
The quote from A and B is the total cost is $2,207. And that's for one door. And if you add other doors, it's $170 for each additional door.
Exactly.
So we
I
add,
2 more doors in the town hall?
$340 more?
Correct.
Are you looking for a motion?
I will move that we approve the A and B contract and add 2 additional doors to key the entire town hall
I second that.
electronically.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Ann Barney,
Aye.
Bob Laterno,
Aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye. Moving on. Job posting for electric department lineman. Catherine?
Yes, so at several meetings ago, I received approval. We had discussed the needs of the electric department. Currently, we have one journeyman lineman who is currently serving military duty for the foreseeable future. And we have one apprentice lineman. And that's really what makes up the electric department right now. I received approval to post for the electric superintendent position, which has been posted for three and a half weeks now. But considering when we were fully staffed in the department, we had 2 journeyman linemen and 2 linemen, as well as the superintendent. So I think what I'm really looking for is approval to post for at least another journeyman and a lineman to suit the needs of the department and to have the focus of staff retention going forward. The electric department is an on-call department, meaning we need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week coverage in the case of an outage or a storm. And when we have only one employee in the department now, it places a stress on that individual employee. So what I'm looking for is the approval to post for those 2 positions.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved. We need to get this done.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Ann Barney,
Aye.
Bob Laterno,
Aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye.
Can I just ask for clarification? It was 1 journeyman and what?
So 1 journeyman lineman and 1 lineman.
Right.
2 positions.
Correct.
Okay. So we've taken care of new business.
Thank you.
Update on GIS.
Hang on, let me just get my little paperwork here.
Okay.
That is a minute ago. I called CAI Technologies and to ask for status update. And as you know, it was a 3-year contract and they have completely finished year 1 and year 2. Year 1 was, data gathering and starting to build the map and that had a lot of town involvement. Year 2 was actually putting that into a map. Now this year, they're going to finalize everything and complete the work and then present the report to the town. They'll again ask for town involvement. So we should have it completed by the end of the year. So the project was billed in 3 increments for $39,300 each year. So we'll have one final $39,300 bill at the end of this project. So at the end of the work, Tim Fountain, who was the project manager, will set up a meeting with the new town manager when in place.
Okay.
That's been budgeted.
Yes,
Yes.
it was passed by warrant article 3 years ago.
Okay. Update on TAP project.
Really nothing new to report. They're still on schedule to start the work at the end of this month.
I thought
Okay.
I saw them replacing poles on Sunday down there on the main street.
Yeah, that needed to be done before they could start the construction.
They're moving the poles back.
Yeah.
Or moving them, not really replacing them.
Right.
No, they are replacing all the,
They are?
replacing those, yeah, they have to move them because they're in the way of the sidewalk,
Yes.
so Rob and all the part-time guys came in this weekend and they did 4 poles.
Okay.
There are more poles that need to be done. And you guys, just so you know, you will see at every crosswalk now, none of the crosswalks can be diagonal anymore. They have to be 90 degrees to the road.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you'll see what are the requirements, federal requirements, that there be a street light at offset on each side of each crosswalk. So that's an additional pole that you guys may wonder, why is that pole popping up on the other side of the road? Well, it's to house a street light so the crosswalk can be lit.
Okay.
So you'll see those come up and they'll be odd. Like you see the one at the Booster Club. That's like sticking right out there like a sore thumb, and it kind of doesn't look good, but eventually that will have a street light on it to light the sidewalk. So I just want to notify everybody. We are, we're trying to get, a crew together to do all this work. So it's going to be ongoing, but excuse me. So we still will be replacing some poles on the sidewalk as time progresses. And GMI is starting work, I believe, the 26th of the week of the 26th, they should be moving their equipment in, is the notice that I got.
Okay, anything else on the TAP grant?
Nope.
Booster Club roof update.
Yes, so I'm coming today to ask if we can take the money for the roof out of the town building maintenance fund, because Craig went up to patch it like he was going to, and he showed me that it's just not gonna patch. In that, we started the year, we had 42,979 in it. And we took out 12,800 for the trees. So there's 30,179 left in it, and we get another 10 will be put in later in the year. So I'm asking that we can get the metal roof put on while we have time to, before any more damage happens.
And that cost is how much?
The lowest one was 10,995.
And
What's underneath those shingles?
some rotted wood under there.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we didn't include rotted wood.
Yeah, Andy, we went up there we just got some double coverage to try to fix it before the rain. And, the guys were on their hands and knees, and one of the guys put their hand right through the wood, the punky wood. I think I got your cell phone. I can send you a picture of it, but it was a big hole the size of a basketball when his hand went through it. So the wood was actually rotted. And I'm assuming that's where it originally leaked when they figured out they had to replace the shingles the last time. I'm guessing that's right where the roof was the worst, and so there's a bad board there. Who knows what other damage is underneath that, but I can send you a picture. It's pretty punky.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So it looks like we're going to be talking about more than $10,000 here, if you've got to do a lot of wood replacement.
Well, I can strip that off if I know they're coming. I can replace that board. I think it's just a plank, rough sawn lumber plank. So I think
Yeah,
maybe
but
we
what
can-
else? What else are they going to find?
Well,
Yeah,
they're gonna put over it. They'll do all the measurements, and it's gonna come out in a one piece, right, Craig? And they're just putting it over everything.
Yeah, that's what he explained to me. They'll just put it right over it. It doesn't. He told me it didn't matter if there was minor. The boards were minor, so we'll have to look at it. I don't know what minor, repairs they'll cover, but I don't even know if I can get in the attic. I would have to see if there's a loft. I'm do you know if there's a loft, Dan?
I think
we-
there's like a crawl.
A crawl space, yeah, but there's gonna be an access to the attic. I'll have to look at it. And do an evaluation, because if I know this needs to get fixed, and he's coming like on a Friday to do it, I'll do the repairs, so it won't cost any more money.
And if you put the two estimates side by side, do they cover the same
Yeah,
area?
yes,
They go line for line and there's just a $10,000 difference.
one of them is, the one I want to go with is 10,995 and the other one's 22.
Now, but they will be doing the same things.
Yes, metal roofing, going over. Yes,
Okay.
And are they both using the same thickness of metal roofing? Because there's 3 grades of metal roofing to my understanding.
I honestly don't know about that. But they're both warranted for 60 years.
There's very little problems with metal roofs. I got metal roofs all over my house. I got no problems with them. Like barn across the street, it looks like you put a metal roof on it 100 years ago. It's still good.
Andy, I just sent you a picture on your phone if you can get it.
Yeah, I'll look at it.
Craig, you viewed the estimates?
Yeah, I met with one of the contractors. The other one, I guess, just did it. He never involved me. But the guy I met, they actually make the roofing right on site. It'll be a 1-day project. They seemed very knowledgeable. His quote was pretty complete. I liked what he had to say, and he guaranteed it, I think, for, like Ann said, it was either 60 or 80 years or something. And they're a local company. They're not a big manufacturing company, but I did meet with that one guy, and we went over top to bottom, side to side, and I liked what he had to say. So, and he was the cheapest quote.
Yeah. This is the lower of the two prices.
Yes.
Okay.
So in looking at that picture, it doesn't really look like there's a lot of rot there. It looks like it's just a lot of knots in that particular area. Is that what am I correct in saying that, Craig?
Yeah, if you zoom that up, you'll see that board that didn't break off is punky. But it's just, it looks, when you feel underneath there, it feels like possibly that's where the original leak was in the beginning. That's why they forced them to replace the roof years ago. And they just never addressed the board, that plank, they never replaced it. The rest of the roof, when you walk on it, feels sturdy. But, unless I got underneath the crawl space and actually did a visual, I wouldn't know exactly. But, we were walking all over that, all of us. And, a couple of us are pretty, light. So it held us up good. I mean, it was just that one area that we found so far.
Thank you, Craig.
Okay. What is your pleasure?
So we need a motion to move forward with this?
That's
Okay,
what I think Ann's requesting.
okay, and I'll make a motion that we approve the replacing of the roof on the Booster Club
For how
Bill-
much?
for the amount that she had mentioned was 10,000, said 10,000?
10,995.
10,995. So
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing. I do have one. Does the quote, the estimate, leave any room for him to, is there a cost overrun in that?
No,
He doesn't say anything like plus or minus 10% or,
no.
okay. If there's no further discussion,
Just
roll
want to,
call. What?
just want to make one point. I think that, we need to move on it quickly because
That's just what we're going to do.
get a lot of damage inside that building. It could ruin Nan's computers and everything else.
This is why we are voting on it right now.
Thank you.
Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Bob Laterno,
Aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye. Motion is approved.
Here's a reminder.
Thank you.
Boston Celtics versus Chicago Bulls is starting in 9 minutes.
Okay, don't know where that came from. Moving on, update on utility clerk position and space needs. Oh, I've got a message from 714 that Finnegan is being put down and Catherine will get back to us. We can start on our discussion of the electric department rates. Who wants to venture out first? I saw a wave of a hand but missed it. Alan?
It wasn't my hand, but I will start this, I guess, put this in motion. I believe we've had plenty of discussion, had plenty of information given to us. I feel that we should be able to move forward with this tonight.
This is what we're trying to do, Alan.
I know, I'm just trying to make this as short as possible, so to speak. I am going to make the same motion that I made a month ago to increase the rates 1.5 cents per kilowatt, which roughly comes to an increase of 10%.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor, Craig. I'll get to you in a minute. Do I hear a second? Hearing no second.
What's the motion?
The motion is does not go forward. Now, Craig, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I want to let you guys know, I met with Rob Friday. We sat down with Catherine as well. And he went through all the numbers. And I think you guys might have seen the late email from Catherine. The financials, they're not really that great. And he is recommending we do a penny and a half as well. It's not too high. We can always go back and lower it if we need to. But this is going to pay for our future infrastructure. It's going to pay for our linesmen to stay in town. So he's recommending as well, if he was here as the superintendent, he would be approaching you guys to recommend a penny and a half increase. And that's what he wanted me to mention to you guys. That should get us moving, at least get us on the right track. So some of the other foreseeable future is like the meters. We need some way to pay for them.
Yes,
This is gonna get us on track. It's not a great increase. But if somebody would like to offer a penny, then we'll start there. But I think we need to move forward like everybody said. But I just wanted to let you guys know what Rob was suggesting, just so you had an idea on the
okay.
numbers we went through.
Catherine?
Yeah, I absolutely echo, Craig. I'm not sure if anyone has had time to review the financial, summary that I sent. It was really just a boilerplate page of everything that I had previously sent, just to show that we've had some losses in the past. We have a negative net position that we're working on neutralizing and turning into a positive, net position, which really, that's the most important figure when you look at the entire financial statements, because that shows you what's left over after all your assets and liabilities are accounted for, and when your net profit or net loss is accounted for. And we've been
Okay.
in a negative position for quite some time, but it's improving.
Bob?
Is that penny and a half across across the board? Because we do have a structured rate.
Yes,
It's a penny and a half across the board, right?
yes, yes.
That's right, yep.
All right, then I would entertain Alan's motion again.
Does anybody else have any questions before we move on? Okay, Bob, your motion is to raise rates
No.
across,
No, Alan made the motion. I would entertain it.
Well-
We would put it back.
Alan, make your motion again, please.
I can do that. I make a motion to raise electric rates 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour across the board.
Do I hear a second?
I guess I will have to second it.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Andy Fitch,
Nay.
Ann Barney,
Aye.
Bob Laterno,
Aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
and I will vote aye on this one. Motion passes.
Effective when?
I think that we should give people a 30-day notice.
I think we ought to put that out there, when the effective date will be.
Yeah. So
We still have to have a meeting on this with the public.
a public hearing?
We don't
Yes.
have a hearing.
No.
An enterprise
Okay.
fund, so it's not required by statute.
Okay. I feel that we should notify the public that there's going to be a rate increase. I would like to make sure that all of the bills are correct before a rate increase goes out.
Up to date and current.
Absolutely.
I'll make a motion. Motion that rates be effective June 1st.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second
Aye.
that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Ann Barney,
Aye.
Bob Laterno,
Aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye. Okay, let me go back to my agenda. Hopefully I have the right one. We've done old business. We've done all of new business. Are there any select board items? Hearing none. Do we have a non-public? Yes, Bob.
Do we need to approve the business from the last meeting? We haven't done that yet.
The,
The minutes.
The minutes, we hadn't approved them because we moved into, because of
Yes.
time constraints.
I just want to make sure that what I'm trying to do is see if we have a non-public session. And the answer is no. So going back up to the top of, and if I've got the wrong, hopefully, let me pull this up. We have meetings from the 4th, from the 6th, the 8th, and the 15th. Are there any amendments to the 6th?
Yeah, there's one amendment, line 32. We came out of the meeting at 10:28. It had to be about 2:45 when we adjourned.
Okay. Are there any other corrections to the April 6th meeting? Hearing none. I'll accept a motion.
Move to adjourn.
No, we're doing minutes now, Bob.
I'm just
I'll make a
kidding.
motion to accept the, yeah, the minutes of the April 6th meeting
Okay,
as amended.
do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we don't want to stay up too late for you, Bob.
I was just kidding with you.
I know. All in favor? Andy Fitch.
Aye.
Ann Barney,
Aye.
Bob Letourneau,
Aye.
Alan Silly.
I'll abstain. I was not at that meeting.
Okay, moving on. April 8th.
I have one amendment on that, page 5, line 10. The word truck, it was a loader that we were dealing with.
Correct.
Are there any other amendments to those minutes? Corrections? No one's spoken up. I will accept a motion for April 8th.
Move to approve the minutes of April 8th as amended.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Ann Barney,
Aye.
Bob Letourneau,
Aye.
Alan Silly.
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye. Moving on to the minutes from April 15th. Now, are there any corrections to April 15th?
I don't have them in front of me, but
Neither do I.
yeah. We'll move to approve the minutes as written of April 15th.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Andy Fitch
Aye.
and Barney,
Aye.
Bob Letourneau,
Aye.
Alan Silly,
I will abstain.
Eli Badger says aye. I believe that
Did we do the update on the utility clerk position and the space needed?
no, we didn't, because she was out of the room at the time. Update on you, Catherine?
Before we
Update
do
on-
that, can I ask Andy a question about the 8 minutes? You said on page 5, something about a truck should be a loader.
Yes.
It is, I'm under rust repairs on the 2012 loader.
I'm getting there. Hang on.
Okay,
That is correct.
Yeah, line 10 says it's a truck
oh.
and it's actually a
Okay,
loader.
okay. All right. All right, I thought it said loader, but one word I used was truck. Okay, got it. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Update on the utility clerk position and space needs. Catherine?
Hello, I am back.
Good.
So what are you looking for as far as an update?
I can provide something, but not much. We did hire Diane to be the utility clerk at our last meeting. And I said at that time that I would look into what it would take to consider moving Diane and Ann back to the Collins Street building. There is a ticket in for CCS to come in and take a look at and see what's needed. They will come and meet with Ann and Diane and me at some point. I'm not sure when. I also sent an email to the phone company. For some reason, they deferred it to Rusty, and I'm not sure, why they deferred it to Rusty. But anyway, I don't have any numbers for you at this point. I was hoping when I put it on the agenda that I would. I will bring it up again at the department head meeting on Thursday to discuss, space needs. So that's the update.
Okay. Catherine, do you have any other business you want to discuss?
The only other business I wanted to discuss about that would be, the fact that Ann and Diane are what makes up the other 2/3 of the finance department. And I see some challenges if 2/3 of the department is moved to a different location. I just wonder how I would be able to oversee and manage the day-to-day, since it is an office type environment from town hall.
Okay. I think that we need that is a good question. Would we be able to do that remotely?
I think it would be really challenging.
Isn't that how it was done before?
Prior to moving the utility positions under the finance director, those positions were overseen by the water sewer superintendent and electric superintendent, which back when Charlie was our town manager, we had a meeting between what was Karen, Rusty, Rob, and myself about moving the oversight of that position, the department head, to finance, because what they were doing was truly finance. And it was less, it is for the utility, the billing for the utilities, but it's a financial operation of the town.
They were also under commissioners for most of the time until we had a town manager form of government.
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, we do have a new town manager coming in. I think they can deal with that at that time.
Okay, we can postpone that until the new town manager arrives. Is that the consensus?
There's a lot that needs to be done to move them in any case, so I think that,
Well,
you know,
yeah.
we have time on our side, but I think it's a good idea to discuss it with the new town manager.
Okay. Is there anything else that needs to be discussed, Catherine?
The only other thing to discuss would be if we do hire somebody in the short term for the payroll and accounts payable function, where we would put them. It doesn't need to be determined right and decided right this moment, but it's something to consider.
Okay.
This is the reason why I suggest that we move the people back down to Collins Street, because there's not enough room at the town hall for everybody that we're hiring.
We just agreed to let the new town manager weigh in on it.
I think there's probably a solution out there somewhere.
Yeah.
We're gonna come to it tonight.
Is there anything else? Hearing none. Catherine, I have a message. Should we go into non-public in under 91A? What is it, 3B?
That sounds correct.
Are you talking about the application for the electric superintendent?
And I also have, yes.
Should that person be interviewed before we discuss whether or not to hire?
I think it's, you should consider whether you want to, bring that person in for an interview or not.
The application didn't seem to fit the parameters that were put out on that particular job offer.
Those
And-
particulars, that's why I was recommending the non-public, because those particulars are typically appropriate for like a non-public discussion.
Right.
Do I hear a motion to go into non-public? I think we'll postpone this until we have more information then. I will accept, if we have no further business, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Move to
So
adjourn.
moved.
So moved and seconded. All in favor, yell aye.
Aye.
Aye.